Hi, I'm Kimberlyn from Life's Work Yoga. Welcome to Story Time. We're here to connect by sharing our stories. And that relates to life in general as well as our time together now. Our successes, our disappointments, our struggles, and our victories. We're here, whether it's live and in real time or anytime, on your time. When you find yourself in need of inspiration or guided introspection, that's why I'm here. That's what I do. Whether it's related to your practice on the mat or out in the world, to me, it's all yoga. And by that I mean it's all part of living and learning. We're not here to perfect or perform, but rather to practice. Last month I talked about how curiosity, built on the foundation of compassion, begins the adventure of the 7 C's for inspired shift. We continue this adventure today as we step into creativity as a practice for inspired shift. Today's story is a bit of a creative take on a story I first heard as feeding the tiger. I was first introduced to the story as a metaphor for choosing between good and bad, love and fear, all or nothing. In sharing this story today, as we explore creativity, I want to ignite your spark of creativity, to see the spectrum between all and nothing, to see the possibilities and potentialities contained within every choice, in between the two polar ends. Feeding the tiger, a metaphor. First, let me share a truncated version of the original true story. In fact, it's considered one of the most famous of Buddha's true stories. Here's the story. In a previous life of the Buddha, he was a prince in the country. One day, Prince Sattva discovered the tigers in the forest were starving. As a bodhisattva cultivator and one who practiced great compassion, the prince fed his body to these tigers. The teaching is not to encourage people to end their lives in sacrifice. Rather, the story is a reflection of Buddha's deep compassion. At this time, the prince was at the pre-stage of attaining his Buddhahood. Now, this story was shared in the Buddhist Sutra, Zhan Yu Sutra, Volume 1, Maha Prince Sattva, feeding his body to tigers. So now, an adaptation, a creative adaptation. Imagine that you wake up one morning and just outside your front door you find an adorable tiger kitten meowing. Of course, you bring the cuddly little thing inside and decide to keep it as a pet. After playing with him for a while, you notice he's still meowing nonstop. You look for places of injury and discomfort, but find nothing. Eventually, you realize that he must be hungry. You feed him a bit of minced red meat, knowing that meat is what tigers like to eat. You do this every day, and every day your pet tiger grows a bit bigger. You celebrate your success and grow in your commitment to nurture and support the tiger's growth. You even host a birthday party for your new friend. Time flies when you're learning new things and are responsible for the care and well-being of another. Over the course of 2 years, your tiger's daily meals change from hamburger scraps to prime ribs to entire sides of beef. Soon, your little pet no longer meows when hungry. Instead, he growls ferociously whenever he thinks it's mealtime. Your cute little pet has turned into an uncontrollable savage beast that can, or perhaps will very likely, tear you apart if he doesn't get what he wants. The first version of the story might argue that you are to feed yourself to the tiger. I hope it is not difficult to realize that this is not the best answer. but what other options can we come up with? So that's our lesson today. We're talking about creativity, not suicidal martyrdom. When you are running away from a tiger, creativity may seem a bit frivolous, or it could just save your life. We are not in active danger in this tiger story. Rather, over time, the story is unfolding to reveal a situation that feels untenable. We cannot continue to care for the tiger at home on our own. Thoughts, feelings, or even desired achievements, such as a promotion, can be compared to this imaginary pet tiger. Whether it's avoiding pain or desiring satisfaction, attachment clouds our perspective. The Buddha was seeking Buddhahood. Perhaps in caring for the tiger, I just wanted a cuddly friend. Whatever it is, the siren song of longing compels us to lose ourselves, our authentic alignment, and access to compassionate truth in pursuit of achievement or satisfaction. When we first see the tiger, we are captivated by its innocence and beauty. I mean, did you see her sad eyes? We think surely there is no harm in engaging with this little bitty tiger. For I am big and she is small. I am strong and she is but a helpless thing. For the sake of this story, let's assume that you are not a tiger expert or even a trained animal caretaker. Let's assume for the sake of the story that you are an animal lover and willing to learn new things. So let's check on our progress in cultivating the 7 C's of inspired shift. Compassion, desire to do good and do right by this tiger? Check, got it. Curiosity, we realize that there's some stuff that we don't know, but we have a willingness to learn. So check. But taking on the care of another being is a huge opportunity for shift. As a parent, I think becoming a mom was my most powerful experience of shift. And just as I thought I'd figured it out, the next developmental stage of my kid required an entirely different set of skills or tools. Or so it seemed. In the story of the tiger, it's a good thing we've successfully identified both compassion and curiosity to assist in this transition, right? Done. Can you hear my sarcasm? Compassion and curiosity are simply not enough. In fact, as I have journeyed, I've identified 4 more steps just to get to clarity. And clarity is when the action of inspired living begins. Albert Einstein, you heard of him before, right? Well, he defined creativity as seeing what others see and thinking what no one else has ever thought. So perhaps creativity in this story is seeing the baby tiger and thinking he would be a great pet. Einstein's definition, however, seems to lack wisdom, if not raw intelligence. Would you agree? In other words, in what context is a baby tiger ever going to make a good household pet? Now, I'm not knocking Einstein. On the contrary, I'm saying we need to do some more research. We need more information, hence perhaps curiosity and then creativity. Now, often I hear stories of folks feeling stuck in uninspiring jobs, in unhealthy relationships, in roles that don't reflect or honor their skills. This stuckness is a mental state where creativity has been shut down. Like a faucet that has been turned off at the main, the flow is simply not available. Maybe we convince ourselves it is the loving, dare I say, compassionate thing to do to rescue the abandoned tiger. But even if we begin the journey thinking of it as a temporary solution with every intention of finding a suitable home for our little friend, in doing so, we have prioritized the tiger's perceived well-being over our own safety. This reframe is not built on Thich Nhat Hanh's 3 questions that I shared when I talked about curiosity. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? This kind of rationalizing mind game is why self-care has to be the foundation, our compassion practice. Once we have committed to the new role of tiger caretaker, even if it's temporary, what options have we inadvertently dismissed, ignored, or denied in commitment to our newly claimed role? This is where creativity becomes a critical skill for inspired shift. It can be hard to change our minds, especially if we were wrong. Creativity is an exercise in non-judgment, hence the foundation in compassion. Every time we feed our desire, whether it's attachment or avoidance, we empower the myths and beliefs contained within the story. Avoiding the hunger, tiger, the pain, only brings up greater risk. So you end up feeding the pain. You help your pain, tiger, grow a little bit larger and a little bit stronger. Feeding it in this manner seems like the prudent thing to do. The pain, tiger, growls ferociously, telling you to feed it whatever it wants or it will eat you. Yet every time you feed it, you help the pain become stronger, more intimidating, and more controlling of your life. Perhaps you are thinking, curiosity got me into this predicament. So much for inspired shift. No, thank you. But it's not curiosity that created the problem of a hungry tiger. That's just life. Perhaps curiosity not founded on compassion for ourselves and the tiger caused us to ignore reason. Tigers are not good pets. For now, let's table this debate as to how the problem started. I'll talk more about that next week in Coach's Chat. Instead, let's consider, even if curiosity did get us into this mess, how can creativity help us navigate our way out? As my sign here in the studio says, going in is the way out. Into compassion, into curiosity, into creativity. Elizabeth Gilbert wrote, creative living is any life that is driven more strongly by curiosity than by fear. From compassion, we do explore curiosity. And from curiosity, it's almost unavoidable, inevitable, that we cultivate creativity. There is no question. If I am a caretaker for a tiger, there is reason for fear. And yet, I am not without knowledge and experience, having now raised the tiger for 2 years. And yet, at what point did the circumstance become tenuous? The moment we realize the circumstances, whatever they are not sustainable. This is when we move beyond curiosity and enter the realm of creativity. This transition is most accessible when we have a direct access to our foundation of compassion. The moment we cannot say a definitive yes to the circumstances as they are warrants that we embark on a 7-sea adventure. So, how can we use this story to reignite our creativity? According to dictionary.com, creativity is the ability to transcend traditional ideas, rules, patterns, relationships, and to create meaningful new ideas, forms, methods, and interpretations. Creativity is also used to describe the power to bring something new into being. Creative power. Whether we gestate life or parent or participate in the rearing and raising of another life, creativity is a valuable skill. It begins with compassion, grows with curiosity, and evolves into possibility as creativity. Theodore Levitt said, creativity is thinking up new things. Innovation is doing new things. When you think of creativity, what comes to mind? Perhaps you imagine works of art in print or in presentation. Maybe you're drawn toward the originality of innovation and invention. Or perhaps creativity sparks a spirit of genius, cleverness, originality, or resourcefulness. I tend to think of creativity as inspiration, often existing before it is put into form of action, the doing, the non-doing, undoing, and redoing. Creativity is a skill that facilitates value and alignment in our chosen actions. The point is, there is never just one way to define or even experience anything, including creativity. But at the core of this concept, it's important to note that creativity is an inherent component of every living thing. It's part of our nature, even if it is unequally distributed or accessed. Next week in Coach's Chat, I'll share the yoga philosophy that relates to this idea of creative nature. For now, think of creativity like melanin. Some of us have more of it than others, and still others have it show up in patterns that differ from anyone else. I can tell you, I've never met someone who has made my same color, arrangement, and distribution of freckles. To be a creative or an artist might just be preempted by and even depend on the skill of creativity. But creativity as a skill is something we can all learn. Practice. Practice is what makes the difference, and consistent practice is the key. The same can be said about all human qualities and skills. We are born with reflexes that last long enough for our baby brains to develop the ability to learn skills. In other words, everything we do now, we learned. Our environment in terms of exposure and encouragement have much more influence on the skills and qualities of our person than our genetic makeup. Brené Brown confessed, creativity is the way I share my soul with the world. Perhaps living our dharma, our life's work, is to share our soul with the world. So perhaps the question is not, are you creative? Or can you use creativity to resolve your tiger problem? But rather, how can you transform your understanding of the problem? How can you access your potential, your nature, to be in relationship with the reality of what is? This is what I call reframe from love, and we'll discuss that in Coach's Chat next week. Yoga is the practice of living well, of breathing well, of moving well in body and in mind, and resting well so that we can restore ourselves to do the things that matter most every day. So here's the catch. Creativity is not going to solve our tiger problem. It's just the next right step toward clarity, which when done well will bring the solution into clearer view by expanding our perspective and exploring new ideas and possibilities. However, seeing the possibilities does not guarantee we are ready to shift. That's why the next step is courage. In fact, we may find ourselves oscillating back and forth between curiosity, creativity, and courage as we continue to explore. As Henry Matisse explained, creativity takes courage. But he also said, don't wait for inspiration. It comes while working. Said another way, it's a practice. So let's practice creativity by exploring new ideas, new strategies, new shapes, and new patterns. Let's break some rules. Let's reframe our mental mindset and our emotional outlook from love. Let's consider possibility and potentiality. Nothing about creativity requires commitment. In fact, that's probably the best takeaway for measuring your expression of creativity. Can you engage without expectation? When it's time to move on, can you let it go, let it be, and let it flow? I hope this story inspires you as deeply as it has inspired me. I hope that you are a little bit curious about your own creativity. I share these stories to help you live better, feel more aligned, and to help you move freely through the tasks of your day. That means I want to hear from you. What was your takeaway from today's story? What resonated most with you? What challenges or questions came up? In other words, how are you shifting? And specifically, how are you practicing creativity? If living the practices of yoga is brand new to you, take a breath and join me next week in Coach's Chat. If you've been walking the talk for a while, then it's time to see what little shifts you can integrate into your daily life. How are you living? What are you creating? And what does compassionate self-care look like for you? When I hear from you, I use your questions and examples to expand and personalize these messages so they support you in living well. So email me at lifesworkyoga@gmail.com. Find me on Facebook or on Instagram or Life's Work Yoga. You can send me a personal message there or check us out at lifesworkyoga.com. Visit us in the studio or online, whether it's for a one-on-one or a group experience. We offer circles and community practice, trainings and personal treatments in body work, yoga therapy, and life's work coaching. If we can, we want to support you in living your life's work. May you breathe deeply, move freely, labor lovingly, and live vibrantly. May you be well. Namaste. I hope to see you next week when I share the yoga principles at play in creativity as it relates to this story of shift, this practice of living well, inspired living. Thanks so much, and bye for now.